Good afternoon. My name is Stacy Alisi, and I'll be the moderator for this session titled Detecting Deception, Equipping Faculty to Identify AI-Generated Citation Fabrication. Before we begin, we have a few reminders. We have a code of conduct that we will adhere to for this conference. The link, I'll be posting that in the chat. And if you have any issues related to conduct, there'll be an email that you can use as well. Please be sure your microphone is muted during the Q&A. Please wait till you are invited to unmute before asking a question or making a comment. You can also use chat for questions. And the speakers are welcoming questions, please. This session is being recorded. You can enable captions by clicking on the Show Captions button on the bottom of the screen. It is my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Johnson and Meghan Salsbury. Stephanie is a reference and instruction librarian at National University in San Diego, California. She earned her MLIS at Florida State University in 2013, go Knowles, and management from, an MPS in digital curation and management from UNC Chapel Hill in 2023. She is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. The veteran and military affiliated student liaison to the library and serves the College of Business, Engineering, and Technology. Meghan Salsbury is a systems and instructional multimedia librarian at National University. She holds an MS in library science from Emporia State University and has over 15 years of experience in online learning and higher education. Her research interests include bridging the digital divide, performance support practices, and information literacy instruction for online learners. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie and Meghan.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here, and thanks for joining us this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. Stephanie and I work remotely, so I am in Nebraska currently, and she is in Alabama. And all of our colleagues out in California are still at 11 a.m. this morning. So today we're going to be talking about detecting deception, equipping faculty to identify AI-generated citation fabrication. This is something that has come up and been a concern among our students and our librarians over the past year. And Stephanie has been working at the forefront for our library to better equip our faculty to be aware of this situation and how it's affecting our students, their academics, and their scholarship.
And Meghan, as you get started, I wanted to just go ahead and throw out there, if you guys have a question, we would love it if you would ask your questions as they come up. We really want this to be a conversation rather than us just kind of lecturing you. So we appreciate it.
So we have three parts today. We are going to first look at what are hallucinated citations. I hit the wrong button. Sorry. My slides are freaking out. Okay, apparently it's not going to let me look at the agenda. So we are going to look at what are hallucinated citations, why are they created, and then how we are working with faculty to detect those. So what are hallucinated citations? Here we go on the screen. They are fabricated or fictional references, but they can appear as if they come from scholarly sources. They are designed to mimic the scholarly sources that we see on an everyday basis, and they can create a sense of authenticity. AI models can generate these citations by adhering to the standard citation formats, and they can even include names of real authors in that field, journal titles, and relevant information that seems credible. What's particularly concerning is that they can even occasionally come up with an authentic looking DOI, and this can make it very challenging for our faculty and students to differentiate between the genuine and fabricated references. Understanding this concept is crucial as we move forward in our discussion because it has implications on how we use generative AI in our academic research settings. So this is an example that I have taken from Gemini. This is a fabricated citation, I'll tell you right off the bat. Using Google Gemini, I inserted a prompt asking for scholarly references regarding literary themes in Dracula. So as you can see, I've gotten 4 example citations given to me, and we're going to take a look at the second one here by Kay Bishop. It's from Reinventing Dracula from the page to the screen. Sounded really cool. I like movies, so that seemed like a good one. And I've also heard of the Journal of Popular Culture, so I knew right off the bat that that was a legitimate journal. I then proceeded to go into our library collection and look up the Journal of Popular Culture. I found that specific issue, and then I just skimmed through the articles. The reason I did this is because when I first did a Google Scholar search, I wasn't able to find this reference through Google Scholar, and so I went directly to the source. And if you were to skim through it like I did, you would see that there is no article with this title in this issue. I then went one step further and I went into just regular Google and looked this up. And again, there was no article that came up with this information. So why are these hallucinated citations even being created by large language models? This is where it gets a little bit technical, and this is the longest slide, so bear with me and we'll get through it together. So the first issue is training data issues. Large language models learn from a large data set, usually pulled from the internet, everything from well-edited journal articles to unverified blog posts and forum threads. If those sources contain a mistake or a lie or a fabrication on their own, then the model will absorb them. And it doesn't fact check or distinguish whether that's an authoritative source or not. And so because of this, it is collecting dubious information and it's looking for patterns in language. That's what it's set up to do. So think about if you are doing a recipe and for some reason there's a misprint in that recipe where it says 1 tablespoon and instead of 1 teaspoon, that's going to impact your output because you've put in the wrong amount of an ingredient. So that's the same thing with these large language models. If they ingest something that's wrong or fabricated or biased, then it's going to produce something along those same lines. The next one is architectural and training objectives. These can be misaligned. The design and training goals of a large language model can predispose it to hallucinate. So the point of the large language models is that they put together strings of words based on statistical probability. And when that happens, they're not looking for authenticity or truth. They're looking for what is the highest statistical probability to work for the prompt that it was given. So the context and the prompt itself and the way that it's set up on the back end lead it to hallucinate. Stephanie, I see you unmuted. Was there something?
No, I wasn't coughing, so I thought I would join the conversation.
Nope, you're totally fine. Just wanted to double check. I'm not watching chat, so I didn't know.
We're good.
The third thing that creates these hallucinations is inference stage glitches. So the process of generating the text is the inference stage, and 2 common culprits are flawed decoding strategies. So this is like the sampling can amplify a mistake if they favor high probability but incorrect continuations. And then the context attention drift is the other issue. And this is if the model's attention forgets key parts of the prompt, it may wander and produce a hallucination. And it will be off topic and it can guess the citation simply to fill in the gaps because it didn't pay attention to the full prompt. Prompt engineering itself can be an issue. You have to be very concise, but also explicit in what you want with these large language models. And sometimes if you're vague or overly broad, when you put that prompt in, then the model has too much leeway in what it's looking for and what it's going to generate. So tell me about research. AI research could lead it to invent impressive sounding papers, but something that's more tightly scoped and well structured. Provide 3 peer-reviewed citations from 2023 on transformer interoperability helps reduce the chance of hallucinations by reducing the output that you're looking for. And yes, that all sounded technical for a reason. I would not normally write a prompt like that, just so you know. There's also just the random nature of decoding strategies in themselves. I heard this talked about in a presentation yesterday as well. Large language models use probabilities, obviously, to choose their words. And there's a temperature parameter that is built into these large language models, and this controls the randomness. So if it's a low temperature, then it's safer and it's got a more deterministic output. But if it's a high temperature model, then it gets more creative and there's a higher risk of it inventing details and that includes these citations. So the randomness can be great for storytelling, but not so much when you need accurate references. When faced with unclear or incomplete questions, large language models will often fill in the blanks, and they aim to provide a coherent response because they're trying to give you words that go together at the highest probability. And I'm stressing that because our students often forget that, and they think that it's a search engine that's providing them with a reliable source of information rather than focusing on those word strings. If they sorry, so if they try to fill in the blanks and they aim to provide a coherent response, and if they lack concrete data, just like you might create a detail or fill in the blank situation, they try to fill in the blank, and even though it's well-intentioned and they're trying to answer the prompt in the best way possible, then it's often false, especially when it comes to these citations. So there's also an issue with over-optimization for specific objectives. Some models are tweaked to excel at specific metrics, like maximizing response length or user engagement. And when quantity is rewarded over quality, the model may pad its answers with extra details and fabricated references. It's like paying per word. You end up with verbose, potentially inaccurate content. So to wrap up, the large language model hallucinations aren't caused by one single flaw, but by complex interactions between the training data, the model design, generation processes, and even the user interaction and prompts. So in order to address the citations, we need to teach faculty and students how to verify any of the citations that are produced by AI models. And now Stephanie is going to discuss the training we've implemented at NU Library to help our faculty and students verify these citations.
Hey, so if you go back one for
Yeah.
me or two or three, there we go. Awesome. So actually, the first thing I want to do is just address some of the comments that have been made in the chat. Carrie brought up the fact that a favorite pastime of some of the predatory journals is assigning fake DOIs. Caitlin brings up the fact that there's real DOIs, but they just go to completely different articles. You guys are literally just spelling out everything that I talk about in my webinar with our faculty. Rebecca mentions that she got a list from a researcher, 10 citations, 3 were actual articles, 3 were real titles with the wrong authors, 2 real authors, but wrong journals. You see where we're going here, guys, right? We're all experiencing this. And our faculty are asking us to read these articles that don't exist, aren't they? So it's not just that a student is doing something, it's that a faculty member is saying, hey, ChatGPT, what's being written about such and such right now? And they're coming to us and saying, hey, I need to find these articles, and those articles don't necessarily exist. So it's not just the students, it's also the faculty. I just want to give everybody a shout out, by the way, for sharing everything in here. Rebecca has a great thing in here. If you cannot find relevant citations, tell me I can't find anything as part of your prompt engineering. It's a great way to make sure that the LLM is actually going to return the information that you're looking for. Lorraine, I see you have a question here about variation across LLMs. Instead of telling me there weren't any articles, you got a list of library libguides instead. Would you get the same issues with ChatGPT, Copilot, et cetera? Here's what I will tell you, and then I will ask Megan if she knows. I am not an expert in AI, right? I'm an expert in research and helping people conduct it ethically with AI. So I don't always have the answers for that LLM stuff, my technical term there. Megan, do you have any answers as far as that goes? Is anyone an expert in AI? Probably that person on the first slide that we had that was staring into your soul. That
Yeah,
person
the
is.
AI bot is probably a really good authority on AI. No, It depends. So all of the LLMs, you know, are designed to do the same thing, but it has to do with those pieces that I talked about on the previous slide. So where's the training data coming from? What temperature are they set at? Some of them might be set high and some of them might be set low. I personally have not dug into the back end of every single, you know, generative AI tool to see. I know that I have preferences. I prefer Gemini over ChatGPT, whereas I know that I have colleagues that prefer ChatGPT over, you know, others. So I think it just depends on what you're asking and how you design your prompts. And then just each LLM is going to interpret those a little bit differently, depending on, you know, the training they have, the different temperature that's built in, and then also just the way they ingest data.
So, Lorraine, I think the answer to your question is, you know, when you say, would you get the same issues? You will get issues. The question is whether they're the same or not. We can't necessarily guarantee that
Right.
they'll be the same, but there will be issues, right? And that's what we're all dealing with here right now. So on to talking to faculty, because I definitely want to get you guys some of this information. So our faculty are phenomenal, and they had been talking about AI generated content for a while, but no one had really come up with a solid plan for spotting things, right? So figuring out how to just take a look at reference lists and say, maybe this is hallucinated, maybe this isn't real, right? We hadn't really considered that. In fact, we didn't even realize that it was necessarily a large problem until I actually was reviewing a student's reference list and discovered that over 50% of the student's references did not exist. I'm just going to let that sit for a second. This was a paper. Over 50% of the students' cited references in their reference list did not exist. So that really made it obvious that we had to come up with something. We had to talk to our faculty. We had to get them involved. I had to go to the business department and say, hey, we need to talk about this. This is a big deal, right? Yeah, 50%, my face was melting as well, Natasha. So what do we do? Next slide. So first things first, I want to show you guys is some of the things that we looked at. Well, our slides are going wonky, so hold on one second. There we go. Nope, that's not it. One back. There we go. So these are some of the faculty and student hallucinations that I received. So some of these were from faculty members saying, hey, could you find this article? I really want to read it. And some are from students who were like, hey, you know, I read this article and this is what it had to say, and it wasn't. Students, someone asked a question. I'm so sorry. I just saw it and it popped into my thing about how did they rate the paper themselves? So that was the conversation. Thank you that's why I wanted to kind of redirect. That was sort of the conversation I was having with our faculty members, right? Was this redirection of, it's not just that they're saying that they read these articles, they're saying that they read these articles and that they cited them and that they used them and therefore that these things have to exist. So there's it's not a plagiarism issue, it's really an integrity issue, right? So there was all these sort of layered pieces to these hallucinated citations that we were finding on the student side. The same conversations, though, of course, like I said, had to happen with the faculty. So I want to point out that, you know, if you look at these hallucinations we're looking at here, the journal actually exists for the Journal of Small Business Management. So it could be really easy for you to look at this and say, oh, I think this could be real. But if you click on that DOI, does it take you to the right one? As someone said earlier, no, not necessarily. It could take you to a completely wrong article altogether, right? But the citations look wonderful. The only thing that all four of these have in common is that none of them exist. So we needed to solve for this problem. So next slide. We knew that faculty were requesting fake articles via email, and we knew students were turning in fake references to their professors, but we started to wonder, how far did this go? So were the students talking about fake citations on chat too? Yes, indeed they were. In fact, I decided to take a look through our chat transcripts just to kind of see if I could determine pardon me, when and how the students were talking about hallucinated citations. And the truth is they weren't actually talking about them, they were asking us to find them. So just like faculty members, when students were coming to chat, they were saying, hey, I can't find this article. My favorite comment. You guys just wait for this because I know you've heard it. My friend gave me this reference. right? Who's their friend? Their friend's ChatGPT, their friend's Copilot, their friend's Gemini, whoever their friend is definitely generative, right? So I went through and I created a controlled vocabulary where I used words like hallucinate, hallucinated, hallucinations. I used the phrase not real. I used the phrase where did you find? So that as I was searching through our transcripts, this is how I was trying to figure out where these hallucinated citations were coming up. We can see in 2022, we didn't have any instances where it was being talked about at all. But that's not all that surprising given that ChatGPT really kind of came out in November of 2022, right? And so in 2023, people are just getting used to it. They haven't really figured out that you can use it, quote unquote, use it for research, right? Even though we know you shouldn't. So there's only 9 instances, but look at 2024. This is just chat, guys. This is not counting the students who are turning in papers. This is not counting faculty members sending emails. This is just on chat. We had 45 students. We went from 0 instances to 2 years later, we had 45 instances in chat of people asking for hallucinated citations. And we're talking lists, okay? When I say instances, most of these requests were not for one citation. Most of these requests were for multiple citations. They were like, I can't find these articles. And that's mainly how we caught them. Like, oh, have you been talking to ChatGPT? Because that's the format that ChatGPT provides them in. Pardon me. I do want to point out that at the beginning of this year, from January 1st to the very end of February, we had almost a third of the number of instances for last year in the first 2 months. Then we started offering a webinar and faculty presentations. And since then, we've only had 4 instances. Now, do I think that this is a miracle? Yeah, I think I need to figure out some other controlled vocabulary because I'm pretty sure I'm missing some instances in here. But I do think that it goes to show that having conversations about this stuff and just being very open with both faculty and students can have an impact on how the students are using the generative AI. They're no longer looking for articles that don't exist because they're not asking for it to find the articles to begin with. Does that make sense? Next slide, if you will. All right. So what we did was we created some kind of different modalities for not just educating our students, but also not just educating our faculty, but also educating our students. So the first thing we did, if you go to the next slide, is we created a webinar called Hallucination Check, Verifying Sources in the Age of AI. This is a 45-minute webinar that is focused on pattern recognition and hallucinated references. We talk about how to check if a reference is real, as well as honestly how to become a better researcher. So one thing that we've done is we have not tried to focus all on like AI is bad and you shouldn't use AI. Instead, we're saying you can use AI, but here's how to use it to become a better researcher, right? Because the idea behind this is always how to become a better researcher. I will tell you this 45-minute webinar, I do not record. Normally we do record our sessions. However, because both faculty and students are encouraged to come, I wanted to provide kind of a safe space for faculty even to ask questions that they may not want to ask if they knew it was saved for all perpetuity, right? From now on, that anybody could go back and read them or hear their questions. I really wanted them to feel comfortable asking questions that maybe they felt dumb asking. Like I ask questions, honestly, sometimes I'll get some of the computer programming students in there and I'll ask them questions about LLMs because I don't understand it, right? We just kind of wanted to create that sort of feeling in this webinar. Um, let's see. Next one is our handout. So at the end of the webinar, everyone is given this digital handout. It covers just the main topics. You can see here, we cover real quickly what are hallucinated citations. We give them sites, actual sites that they can go to verify citations. But you'll notice the largest part of this is how to become an excellent researcher, right? Doing things like citation chaining, going to webinars, going to tutorials. It's all that focus where we're turning it around and we're asking them to think critically and use the skills that librarians have been teaching all along. And then finally, we do have a 3-minute bite-sized video that covers the main points that are available on our tutorials page. This is literally the bite-sized thing. Like you can watch it. In fact, I watched it just before coming here, just so that I could remember what it was about because it's so fast, but it's so good. I will tell you that the handout and the 3-minute is all Megan. Like, she killed that stuff. She made it so easy for our students. And everything is available through our tutorials pages. We have faculty members that are asking for the copies of the handouts and who are actually asking their students to come and attend our webinar as well. So, yeah, I mean, I have written here, we tried to cover all modalities for all individuals, but the biggest thing to keep in mind here is that the largest part of this instruction is not about how to use AI and not about how AI is bad. Instead, it's how to be a better researcher. And this is something that oftentimes our faculty need to be reminded of as much as our students do. And Natasha, we can make the handout available for sure, but we can provide a link to it as well. So ours is a lot faster because I was hoping that there would be conversations. I see everybody's having conversations in the thank you, Megan. In the chat. Does anybody have any questions? I see a Q in the Q&A. Does our webinar have a Creative Commons license? It does not currently. I don't know if we've talked about doing that yet. Megan, have you heard anything about if we're talking about doing that with our webinars yet?
I don't know about our webinars. I know that technically our LibGuides and anything that I produce always has a Creative Commons license on it. So the video and then the handout are totally fine. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think we've talked about webinars, but we're very OER proponent. Like
Yes.
we have a whole dedicated department for that. So I can't imagine that we wouldn't want people to use those. I guess it's up to Stephanie. She's the one with the presentation, so she'd have to share it.
I would be happy to share it.
And I did put our tutorials LibGuide link in the chat. And that handout is in the infographic and handouts page. So like I said, any of that is up for grabs.
Kim, go ahead. Can we, how do we allow Kim to talk? Bear with me as I figure this out, Kim. JK.
You should be able to unmute herself to talk, in theory.
All right, I clicked that she was allowed to talk. So Kim, can you try to unmute yourself? Oh, you pushed the wrong button. Okay. Can we show a list of how to verify citations again? Yes. So that's places to verify citations is located right there in the center of that handout there. And I'll be honest with you guys, we just take them through the simple things, right? We talk about Google Scholar, we talk about the library's catalog, we talk about going to DOI checkers, we talk about just all of the different places that we would normally go. We just teach them how to do it. Regina, that's interesting. I haven't seen any fabricated journals and articles showing up recently or at all yet in Google Scholar, but that is good to know. Oh, Jennifer, good point. She says all the sessions of webinars, so nobody can actually unmute. So we use crossref.org, we use doi.org, we use, obviously, you can just use a straight up google.com search. We show them how to do that with the quotation marks around the titles. It does have, yeah, that's true. I didn't realize about the AI ones. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that more than producing, like looking for citations, Stephanie uses Google Scholar as a way, like she was saying, to verify. Like
Right.
if you can't find that citation in our paid library
It's another place to look.
then try Google Scholar as like your last thing to see if it shows up there.
And Kendall, our chat is actually manned by librarians. We do have a chat bot on certain pages that's just sort of takes care of, oh, we don't have that anymore? Did they take that down?
We killed chatbot.
I'm so sorry. We don't have a chat bot anymore at all. So they are manned by librarians, and then overnight we have chat staff. And then DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. Yes, you've been answered a couple times. So it is it's sort of like the address that you'll be able to find and article at, no matter what, it should always be the same. Amanda, thank you for that. No, I don't have an answer. Isn't that terrible? So I can tell you, I do have a couple of articles I can recommend. I'll have to look them up, and I can maybe put them in with our slides later. But there was a study that was done in, I think it was done in 2022, and the patterns were things like all the same year. So it'd be like 2019, 2018, and 2020. Like all of the articles would come from there. Then that meant that they were probably, um, you know, fake citations. But you just have to be able to, like, one thing I tell students and faculty is the more of an expert they become in their field, the more familiar they're going to be with authors, the more they're going to recognize whether the author is probably like someone who's written in their field before, especially for faculty members. Um, but no, there's no tried and true. Well, and Joshua, that's a really good point. Junk scholarship, the article actually exists. Hallucinated citations, it doesn't exist, right? So that is something to keep in mind as well. Awesome. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody here. We do still
And
have
another,
chat.
okay, yeah, another thing I'd say, on that tutorials page, there is an AI tab. We have another set of librarians who are actually presenting their session tomorrow for the conference about their AI webinar that they've been doing. It's called AI, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it's gotten so popular that it's a two-parter now. They go through AI, they cover a lot of, how LLMs work, what they're doing, those kinds of things, ethical issues. Obviously, they touch on hallucinated citations, but then they tell people to come to Stephanie's webinar for that. But then their second part is actually going in and looking at some of the tools. And
Yeah,
so that's another place that you can learn more. They provide a little bit more of an in-depth look at the different tools. I don't know that the tool section has been recorded yet, but we do have some videos that are shortened versions of that webinar. And then
Erica
I was gonna
asks if there's any AI tools we particularly recommend. I don't. That's always such a.
I don't like to recommend anything personally. Hey, Amanda's here.
There's
Yes,
Amanda
join
Visa.
their session tomorrow.
In fact, it's funny when you go to Amanda's next week or tomorrow, not next week. Also, we've had students come into mine and they're like, "But that's not what they said in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You guys are saying the wrong things. You're saying the opposite." And we have to remind them that we're not saying the opposite things. They're providing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the hallucinations are just the really ugly side of it. So, it's kind of fun. But Erica, to your question, I don't know. There's certain ones that we use, like both Megan and I prefer Gemini over Chat GPT. We don't necessarily recommend it. I like to use Elicit as well. There's also, what's the other one that I just started using because a student was just going crazy about it? I just started looking at it. It's SCI. You guys might have heard of it before. Site.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that's the one. Where is it?
I know also that,
SciSpace.
yeah, SciSpace. I know that also our colleague Amanda, who will be presenting tomorrow, she is our graduate success librarian. And so on our research process guide, she has a section about AI tools that can help find similar research. And so there's some there's some tools listed there. Sorry, started to like zone out here. Tools listed there that I don't know that we recommend, but we've looked at, we've vetted a little bit. And
Yeah, so
so we do
Amanda
share those
listed
with
lit
our students.
maps and connected papers is what she put in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie, I put SciSpace up there too. Looks like Kenius is another one. So that's the thing, right? We can all come up. There's so many of them now that it's every time we turn around, there's a new one coming out. Claude, yes, there's Claude also. Research Rabbit. I don't know if you guys have used that one yet.
And I was going to say, Stephanie and then our other reference and instruction librarians obviously use them a lot more and are more geared towards student facing, as in the research pieces. When I use AI tools, I'm the systems and then multimedia librarian. So I use them to like throw in my video script and say, hey, shorten this to 5 minutes, or, you know, make this super simple for students, or, you know, things like that. Or if I have a code, I like throw in some CSS and have it check my code or make the code better, kind of thing. I don't particularly look at the research side of it, just because I don't do that with the students very often. I get to sit behind the scenes and make the videos that Stephanie scripts out for me and tells me, hey, we need this because our students are doing it or they need to learn about it.
And Natasha, yeah, that most of these are free, as Stacy said, up to a point. I make it a point to tell students that I will only show them how to use the free stuff. I don't pay for anything extra because of the whole access issue, right? Not everybody can afford to have access. So I'm constantly only showing them stuff that's free. That's, I think, the tack that we've been taking mostly. Anybody else have any questions?
This slide has, again, the link to our tutorials, and feel free to look through that. Like I said, anything that we produce, other than, I think we do have a partnership with Intel, so I'm not sure if those AI videos are technically Creative Commons, but they are available on our website, so anybody can
At
look
least
at
view
them.
them.
And then that really heavy, dense slide, if you want to read more about why the large language models produce the hallucinations, I also have that article linked on here.
I think we are out of time. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you.